So this is actually a very common misconception. In my last video, I mentioned how the relocation of Fukushima was inappropriate. And I chose that word very specifically because relocation is actually very different from evacuation. Evacuation is when you tell people that they need to immediately leave their homes. This would help avoid a large initial dose of radiation. During Fukushima, when there was a whole bunch of infrastructure knocked out and they didn't have the ability to tell what was going on in the plant, they decided to do an evacuation, and that was probably appropriate. Unfortunately, because of the fear of radiation, that evacuation was botched. The hurried evacuations from hospitals and nursing homes caused a huge stress and ended up killing actually a lot of people. They were literally taking people who were on life support and trying to move them. For those type of people, a shelter in place indoors is actually more appropriate. Now, relocation, like I mentioned, is when you move people away from their homes more long term. After those initial evacuations, they'll move some people back into their homes because they realize that there's no radioactivity there, you can go back. Now, sometimes they actually extend that area that was initially evacuated. Some people misconstrued that this was actually them evacuating more people, when really they looked at what the radiation levels were on the ground and they determined, you know what, let's go ahead and relocate them from their homes. But as I mentioned before, this can be very harmful. It's actually something that us in the radiological emergency preparedness community have been really having to grapple over with in the last 10 years. Because the lesson learned from Fukushima was that even in the worst case scenario with a triple meltdown, it's probably not going to release enough radioactivity to cause any noticeable health effects in the population living around the plant.